Here's your First Warn Weather forecast first, sponsored by Anderson Collision Center. Visit driveanderson.com.
Well, good evening. It has been a beautiful Thursday afternoon. Temperatures today made it back into the 60s. In fact, our highest temperature so far this month, 64 degrees. Those numbers dropping through the 50s here this evening. Still a very comfortable evening. I'd suggest getting out and enjoying it because we've got some changes coming up once we head into tomorrow. And those changes do include the chance for a couple of snow showers. Now, we still do have a few clouds around, so in some places a little more filtered sunshine as we go throughout the rest of this evening. Comfortable, though, as temperatures by about 6 o'clock dropping down to 50. We'll settle those numbers right around 32 for the start of our Friday. 40s briefly for tomorrow afternoon, but there are some snow showers that could work through. I've got the timing of that coming up in the First Warn forecast a little later.
Cellular providers across the country report widespread outages, even with many people unable to place calls. First responders say you'll be safe in case of an emergency. Plus, a Rockford program connects students with state-line businesses. One goal is to ease uncertainty about life after high school. And Rockford teens show off their films to the public. Organizers say video production can help young adults find their voice.
Live from WTVO 17, this is Eyewitness News at 5.
Good evening, I'm Eric Wilson. Mimi Murphy is off tonight. Before we get to those stories, a Rockford man is arrested after police say he tried to stab a woman in Freeport. Yesterday, Freeport PD was called to an apartment on Stevenson Circle near Park Hills Golf Course for a battery. Officers found a woman with blood on her face. She said a man staying in her apartment attacked and strangled her. A short time later, police found Hezekiah Glover in the area. Investigators say Glover had a knife in his pants pocket. He faces several charges, including aggravated battery with a weapon and aggravated assault. Glover is in the Stevenson County Jail. AT&T is experiencing a high rate of outages with its cell service, or at least it did early today. Just after 7 this morning, the provider reported more than 70,000 users were still affected across the country. Other companies had issues too. Customers are taking to social media talking about how they can't make or receive calls. Emergency calls should still be available. If phones go into SOS mode, they can connect to emergency services thanks to contracts across phone companies.
The carrier AT&T has a deal with T-Mobile in this area where it will use T-Mobile's tower to actually complete that 911 call successfully, still come in here, still get the same class of service that you would get from any other carrier.
AT&T reports it's restored service to all affected customers. U.S. jobless claims fall to a 5-week low. The number of Americans who applied for unemployment in mid-February dropped to about 200,000. Experts say the decline may have been exaggerated by a large drop in unemployment filings in California. That was caused by processing delays tied to President's Day. Overall, experts say the drop still signals a strong U.S. labor market. It's also likely to fuel consumer spending until the Federal Reserve makes its predicted interest rate cuts later this year. Some local students get a first-hand look at what a career in engineering could look like. It's part of the latest program from Rockford Promise. Drea Baroni was there. Drea, there's hope local companies could benefit too.
Yeah, Eric, I stopped by the first of many Promising Careers events. It's a new program through Rockford Promise that connects students to local businesses. This event was all about engineering. Students got the chance to tour companies, ask questions, and learn the basics of the business. Kayleen Groh is the executive director of Rockford Promise. She believes it's vital to get these students into potential jobs as soon as possible.
You know, finishing that education and then thinking about what's next. That is a scary question for many of us. And so this is just a way to pave that path forward for them, to help them make those connections, to get to know faces and names and places.
Kayleen says the program is geared towards the most common majors like engineering, business, education, and their next event focused on nursing. Coming up later at 6 on WTVO, we'll hear from some students on why they got involved. Eric?
We look forward to that. Thanks, Drea. The new OSF Healthcare Cancer Institute in Peoria sees its first patients for infusions and diagnostics. It's not a full opening just yet, as proton beam therapy, radiation therapy, and physician practices are set to open in March. The mission of the Institute is to provide patient-centric cancer care. Instead of patients going to multiple locations for treatment, everything's under one roof. Each patient will have a dedicated cancer support team to coordinate care, resources, mental health, and finances. The 180,000 square foot facility Also has a teaching kitchen and outdoor healing garden, among other amenities. Alabama becomes the first state in the country to rule embryos are people. Doctors and patients are questioning whether they could face criminal charges for having IVF treatments. Alabama Supreme Court ruled frozen embryos are the legal equivalent of children, and destroying them could be considered a crime. The decision is tied to a wrongful death case where embryos were accidentally damaged at a fertility clinic.
We know that there are hundreds of thousands of embryos that are discarded through the IVF process, killed and lost. And as pro-lifers, we believe that that's an unethical treatment of human life.
They view protecting embryos as important, but what about our chance of having a family? Shouldn't that be protected as well?
A spokesperson for the Medical Association of Alabama says the ruling will likely lead to fewer babies being born in the state. Chicago's Board of Education will vote tonight on whether police officers will remain in the city's public schools. About 40 schools in the Windy City have resource officers, or SROs. If they are removed, it will be up to the public school's CEO to create a new safety plan by June. That would change the way discipline is handled in schools, with a focus on conflict resolution and restorative justice practices. Chicago Police's superintendent says officers may not be in schools, but they will be present.
When those kids are on their way to school during arrival times, we will have our officers present. We will have special attention in those locations, as well as dismissals. And if there's any threat of any violence or a possibility of violence around those schools, we will still have special attention there. And the CPD officers, with the great work that they always do, will continue to do the same.
Over the past couple of years, 19 school councils have voted to remove officers. If board members approve this resolution, they would have no say if they want officers or not. Local teens get the chance to show off their hard work through film. YouthBuild Rockford held a media watch party to show off several videos made by teens in the program. Young adults spent a week with a local studio learning how to act, edit, write, and work camera equipment. Their films touch on a wide range of topics, including gun violence. Organizers say the program is a great way for teens to get involved in community conversations.
You give young people guidance, you give them the tools that they need to be successful, and put them to work. They'll do the work, and the results will be great. So today is an opportunity for them to showcase their hard work that they put into voicing their thoughts on community violence, on the impact of positive programming in the community. So I think that's huge that they get the opportunity to showcase their voices and their artistic work.
The films were paid for by grants from the Rockford Area Arts Council and the John Ryan Legacy Foundation. The Republican primary in South Carolina is just days away. Up next, challenger Nikki Haley says she's not giving up as frontrunner Donald Trump looks to win big in the race. Coming up at 6, a local elementary school uses an unusual contest to raise money. Teachers say this KISS is a great way to get students connected with school spirit.
Our temperatures today made it into the 60s, the warmest we've had out of this stretch of 60-degree days. Some changes, though, feature a little snow in the forecast for tomorrow. I've got the timing of that and a chance for a return of some thunderstorms. That's coming up in the First Warn forecast a little later.
You're watching Eyewitness News, your home team with Eric Wilson, Mimi Murphy, Scott Leber, and Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
Nikki Haley says she's not giving up despite calls for her to get out of the way. And Donald Trump appears poised for a big win in Haley's home state of South Carolina. Washington correspondent Basil John reports early voting is underway in the state ahead of Saturday's primary.
It's Nikki Haley.
We can either go with more of the same, or we can go with something new.
Versus Donald Trump.
We will make America great again.
In the latest Republican presidential primary, South Carolina.
We have a choice to make on Saturday.
But Haley faces an uphill battle in her home state. Polling shows the former South Carolina governor trailing behind the former president by 30 points.
I defeated a dozen of the fellas. I just have one more I've got to catch up to.
And some Republicans, like Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, question why Haley is still in the race.
But why is she still running for president?
Getting out of the way
he is incredibly important, not for the party, but for America's future.
Most South Carolina Republicans, like Senator Tim Scott and Congresswoman Nancy Mace, have thrown their support behind Trump.
I will take Donald Trump all day long. This was an easy call to endorse him.
Despite the overwhelming pressure to drop out, Haley says she's not done yet, no matter the results on Saturday.
After South Carolina, the next day I'm headed to Michigan, and then we're going to Super Tuesday states.
Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
Our 60-degree weather continues in the state line. It's so nice. We sent Candace outside. After the break, she tells us about the chance for some flurries tomorrow and the cooling trend for the weekend.
Now, your first warned weather forecast from Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
Well, good evening. Welcome back. Yeah, it was a beautiful day, so we figured why stay in the studio and deliver the weather on such a nice Thursday evening? Let's take it outside because tomorrow by this time it will look and feel a lot different. We still have to remember that we are in the winter season, and while we have been graced with some 60-degree warmth over the last several days, today actually the warmest out of that 3-day 60-degree stretch, we still do have some cooler temperatures to talk about. But next week, it's a chance for a couple of showers and some thunderstorms, some of which could actually be on the stronger side. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that as we go into next week. But for tonight, anything you have planned, it is going to be a beautiful evening. We've got sunshine, a few clouds. We'll keep our skies partly cloudy here as we go through the night tonight. Let's take you up north with our SkyTrack camera up in Beloit this evening. Plenty of sunshine and still plenty of warmth to be had. In fact, our temperatures today made it into the low 60s area wide, up to 64 degrees today. That system that came through this morning passing well to our east and southeast, so not much of a concern for us here as we go throughout the night. Cold front came through, did shift our wind around to the west and northwest. Despite that, though, our temperatures did warm, and we'll still hold on to a little bit of a breeze here as we go through this evening, right around 5 to 10 miles per hour, up to 15 in a couple of spots coming in from the west and northwest. Temperatures still sitting in the 50s at 58 in Rockford, currently at 58 also in Monroe, 55 down in Rochelle. You don't have to worry too much about a wind chill factor out there just with some of that warmth. Now, to put this warmth for February into perspective, our average temperature through yesterday, 35.9 degrees. That is quite impressive, and in fact makes it month to date the warmest February we've had on record, and even the winter season likely going down as the top 5 warmest on record. 2017, 35.4 degrees. Of course, during that time back in 2017, we're actually wrapping up a stretch of record warmth we had back during that year. Our record high temperature for today actually 70 degrees. Now, while we do see some clearing take place here for tonight, we are going to see the cloud cover come back in. This is with a backdoor cold front that moves in from the north and northeast. Cloud cover comes back in, could be as early as mid-morning for some, but I think we end up with a mostly cloudy sky for tomorrow. And with that arrival of the cold front, we've got some snow showers. May see a couple of rain showers initially with temperatures in the 40s, but watch what happens to those numbers. Once the wind shifts around to the northeast, the temperature will drop into the 30s and the wind will pick up. So with the increasing wind, we could have some issues with visibility if we do end up seeing some snow showers, which I think we will anytime after about 2-3 o'clock tomorrow. So just a heads up on that for the late afternoon and evening commute, maybe some issues there. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a light dusting mostly on grassy and elevated surfaces. Pavement temperatures will be too warm to really have anything stick, but it'll just be a reminder that we are still in the winter season. Teens to start us off with on Saturday, but we do see a return of sunshine, some cloud cover later in the day as temperatures make it into the upper 30s. A couple of storm systems off the west coast. That is the energy that comes in early next week. Low pressure will form as a result of that Monday into Tuesday. Draw a warm front to the north, so we could be back again at near record warmth next week, but that warmth with a cold front could fuel a couple of strong to severe thunderstorms. Notice that stretch there from the south all the way up into northern Illinois, so kind of a heads up on that. 43, that's the afternoon temperature. We're down into the 30s by this time tomorrow. 39 on Saturday, 55 on Sunday. We're back into the 60s. Now, Eric, do you remember this time last year we had the ice storm that came through? So what a difference a year makes from that to temperatures in the 60s.
I didn't remember that it was this time of year until you just reminded me, but I certainly remember that storm. Yeah, what a big difference. Candace, thanks. Scott Leber is next. Girls high school basketball teams will battle for sectional championships tonight. We'll get a look at the matchups. And we'll learn about a new boxing event in the state line this weekend that will be held at an unusual place.
Now sports with sports director Scott Leber.
Girls and boys high school basketball teams continue to alternate nights on the court for postseason play. Tonight it's the girls' turn again, and sectional championships will be decided. In Class 4A at McHenry High School, Hononegah will play Libertyville. Libertyville knocked out Guilford Tuesday night. In Class 3A at Sycamore, Dixon will face Canelan. In Class 2A at Oregon, Stillman Valley will go after a sectional championship against Rock Island Oleman. And in Class 1A, Rockford Lutheran is playing for a sectional crown against the top-ranked team in the state, Galena. I'll have highlights here tonight at 10. NBA teams get back at it tonight now that the All-Star break is over. The Bulls will host the Celtics. The Celtics have the best record in the NBA. Former White Sox shortstop Tim Anderson has a new team. He has signed a one-year contract with the Miami Marlins. He'll be paid $5 million. That's a big drop from the $14 million he would have been paid by the White Sox if they hadn't declined the option year of his contract. Rockford's top local boxing club is taking its fighters on the road this weekend for an event. Patriots Gateway Boxing Club fighters will be stepping into the boxing ring Saturday night in an airplane hangar in Rochelle at the Chicagoland Skydiving Center. The event is being called the Fight or Flight Classic. There will be 12 fights featuring Golden Gloves champions and national champions. The main events will feature Golden Gloves champ Julian Lugo of the Patriots Boxing Club and four-time Silver Gloves national champion Gavin Bernal of Patriots Boxing Club. This is the club's way of branching out.
Trying to just broaden the horizons up and move it around a little bit, give another, because they got such a great venue at the Chicago Skydiving Center, and that's what we're trying to do, is find a nice venue to host this amateur boxing matches coming up.
How pumped up do your kids get when they know they're going to fight locally in front of fans like this?
They get excited for any fight, but they're not really going to find out how exciting it is until they get there, because it's going to be a heck of a venue. There's going to be, lights, cameras, action. It's going to be a good time.
The doors will open at 5 p.m. Saturday. The bouts will begin at 6 p.m. Again, that's at Chicagoland Skydiving Center in Rochelle. The Fight or Flight Classic is a production of Plus 7 Company. That's sports. We'll be right back.
We've got a clear radar, the first Warn interactive radar brought to us by Rockford Auto Glass and More. That becomes a little more active with some blue showing up as we've got a couple of wind-whipped snow showers that could come through for tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures in the 40s, dropping through the 30s later in the week. We'll see the numbers climb again with some showers and thunderstorms once we head into the Monday-Tuesday time frame. Some of those thunderstorms could be on the stronger side. A lot of ups and downs on that 7-day forecast.
There's quite a range of temperatures. Certainly a little bit of winter, a little bit of spring, all mixed in there. Thanks, Candace, and thank you for spending a little bit of your time with us. Stay safe.